This tale is about to get a little more frigid. Daddy and Sonny Boy are coming to dinner. And by dinner, I mean a tournament of power. Hey folks, MasakoX here. Now before we start today's story and recap the tale of What If Nappa Turned Good, we need to clarify a couple of things. Some boo-boos of mine. Remember that little mistake with Vegeta's woman being Bomber that we did last time? Yeah, that was my honest mistake. I pulled a Toriyama with that one, and I just completely forgot that in this timeline she's married to Yamcha. So yeah, that's my B. Also, in what Haverock and I dub the Nappaverse, we still have two Zenos, unlike Good Boy 21's universe. We are aware that we switched the order of the events, but that was very much intentional. To make the narrative more interesting and differentiate 21's universe and Nappa's universe from each other. But yeah, we are still back though, telling the story of what might have happened if Nappa had a chance to do more in this dragon world and not be wasted by Vegeta so soon into Z. With this story, Nappa has come a long way. First, he was the outcast of Vegeta, and then became the caretaker of the Son family residence, with a brief spell as their personal chauffeur. From there, he then took up his own lifestyle as a casual gardener, and even found a romantic interest in the form of Cafe, going against the grain in which we are actually used to. Saiyans like strong and aggressive women. Cafe is a calm soul instead, who soothes Nappa's furrowed brow and provides him some chance to look into himself for once and provide some soul searching, something for which he is actually incredibly grateful for. In the last part, we had to deal with the aftermath of the two Nappas, future and present, fusing together and becoming a whole new entity. It was a little bit tricky to get used to, but it proved to be effective in terms of making him stronger, but also avert the signs of aging and old man Nappa a little while longer. Nobody was actually sure how that would work with permanent fusion using Dragon Balls instead of Potara, but hey, I guess it was the doubling of life essence, making things more youthful for the old Watchmen of the Saiyans? We also had the fun interlude of Goku and Hit having a little bit of an argy-bargy, but this time around a lot more people got involved, and the idea of Goku paying Hit to do the business went down much more sourly than in the original. Then there's the whole tournament of power to contend with, and the selection of the contestants, and there are two more spots to fill. And these ones are filled by not just Frieza, but also with an elder statesman. We open up today's episode on a tall, muscular figure of a Frieza race member. No, Frieza hasn't suddenly gotten taller or anything like that. Said individual has much larger horns, and yet a very juxtaposed halo hovering over his head. However, there is something different about this being from what you might expect. Instead of his usual elegant attire, proud gleaming Saiyan armor, and a very magnificent cape that he was always known to wear, he is now instead wearing just some dirty rags. This sight is far different to what we've been in the past. Instead of ruling over all, being considered the most superior being, even in his own mind, he is being whipped by some hooded, ghostly creature, while he himself is pulling a huge platform with some stone blocks on it. The alien is then ordered to build a tower with said blocks, which takes him a considerable amount of time. After everything is done, the hooded creature with one gesture turns the tower into dust, and the whole thing starts from the very beginning. It was a fruitless task, an eternal punishment. The king casts his mind back to the time when he was alive. Oh, the opulence, the power, and the wine. He couldn't even be with his son, who was having to deal with his own personal torture. He couldn't bear to think of what he was having to go through. This had been his plight for decades now, but something was about to change. Surprisingly, some people approach him from a distance, the two figures being Son Goku and Nappa. "Hey, King Cold!" Goku waves over at him. The giant is rather confused, as the two do not have halos. Then he clocks their faces and sighs. It's those two goody-goodies. He turns away again, pretending to have not noticed them, distracting himself with anything, even the punishment that he oh so hated. It was better than that. Well, I mean, what's the point now? It was pointless to ignore them, they were getting too close. He turns back to them, looking exhausted.
No, it's just cold, I guess,"
he says, trying to reaffirm his polite composure, despite sounding defeated, but his demeanor said it all. He was failing at trying to exhibit coolness. The lack of energy was a dead giveaway too. Nappa and Goku then take in the sight of a bedraggled King Cold. Cold.
"Are you here to gloat, Saiyans? You've come a long way for something so petty. No, that can't be it. That's not your way of doing things. You are nothing like the Saiyans I found many years ago. You've become far more savvy. If I didn't hate you so much, I would be actually proud of you.
Nappa gives Cold a stern look.
We're not here for half-hearted compliments, Cold. We need to talk. Something bad's about to go down.
Ah. Cold arches his back up, his former bluster starting to freshen his visage. He looked much more alive in just a matter of seconds.
I see.
The villain smiles slyly.
This is the sound of desperation emanating from your lips. I can tell. The galaxy these days must be an awfully empty and sad place if you two are coming to me for help. Seems like there are no superior beings to rule in my stead then. Good.
Nappa scowls. He hadn't changed one bit, Cold. Still going on about him being the best being in existence. Goku isn't aware of this past rhetoric, though, so Goku's still much more relaxed.
Well, this is actually pretty urgent, the fate of the universe and all that.
Goku responds in his usual happy-go-lucky way.
No visitor scum, or do I need to remind you the old-fashioned way?
He then spots Goku, having gotten a better look at the visitor. The creature then recoils. Goku's reputation clearly preceded him.
Excuse me, can you give me a moment alone with them, please? I believe they are here to discuss business, but I'm sure Lord Yemma would understand.
The hooded wraith nodded, as well as gained some distance from the three. To Yemma, Goku was the best thing since mahogany was invented.
This is your own personal despair, eh? Doesn't look so bad. I was expecting fire and brimstone and all that thing everyone goes on about.
Nappa raised his eyebrow. What was Goku going on about?
You're lucky to have stalled for time, Saiyan. Bought yourself some more years in the mortal realm. You are unaware of how things work here. Hell is different for everyone who enters. This world is unique to me. Hard work and servitude are the two things I despise doing the most. Don't try my patience, though, or else I will introduce you to your own den of pain.
After a while, Goku and Nappa explained to King Cold regarding the whole thing about the Tournament of Power.
I'm curious, though. Why me? Why not my son? Surely he would be more suited to this task.
Because Nappa here said you're more, how does Bulma say it? Manageable than Freezer. You do business, right? You know that everything being destroyed is not good for that, I think.
I'm glad to see that you've been listening to what this older Saiyan said about me. You are correct, Goku. But in business, there is always room for a little bit of pushing back. What would be the situation if I were to refuse your humble request?
Well, we can't do much about that. We'll have to find someone else.
Cold looks a little bemused.
That's your argument? I'm disappointed. You're no fun.
And you will be stuck here with your rocks and your friend with a whip for all eternity.
After hearing that, Cold looks much more enticed.
That's more like it. Very well, I shall assist you, but I only have one condition. You will have to take my son as well. We are a package, you see.
What? Shouts Nappa.
Business, Nappa, business. This is how it works. And oh yes, you will also wish us back to life when all of this is over. Simple as.
Goku's gaze, which had been rather relaxed throughout most of this exchange, suddenly gets serious.
Fine, but we have a condition. After you're brought back, you gotta sell whatever planets you got left. Only doing your business. No more evil stuff, conquering or attacking innocents. Got it?
Cold didn't say anything for a moment and looked at his hooded tormentor. Seems like the monkeys have done their homework.
All right, you've got yourself a deal, gentle monkeys.
And he offered Goku a handshake. It was one of those handshakes when the person shaking first is trying way too hard to show the other person their strength. But seemingly, the Saiyan didn't notice. It felt sort of empowering to him. There's no denying it. When it came down to the matter of business, Cold was a class act.
Well, I guess we gotta grab Freezer on the way as well. Fortune teller bubble will get you from here, Cold.
All right, don't be too long. I will see you two on the other side.
There was one more thing that Cold hadn't said to the Saiyans about his place. Something he chose not to share. Servitude and work were bad enough, but the fact that that tower never got finished was absolutely irritating. He could get used to the whips or the routine, but that? In a way, running the Empire was a routine, but Whoever was designing these places knew that at the end of the day, his ambition would not allow him to just see this thing in ruins. He has to finish what he has started. Cold both despised and admired the way in which his punishment was created. Whoever conjured this up would make a great addition to his force. Meanwhile, Goku and Nappa went to Freezer, and as you could probably imagine, he was no less amused by their visit than his father's. So tell me, why are the two of you here? Shouldn't you be doing whatever you monkeys do in your free time? I can't imagine that paying social visits to your former enemies is part of that routine.
You want to get out of here for like, 24 hours?
Freezer raises an eyebrow.
I would, yes, but this seems rather fishy. This sounds like a ruse on your part. How can I be sure that this isn't a trick to somehow punish me even further?
Nappa then proceeds to free the tyrant from his cocoon, and together with Goku, they explain to then Freezer now the recent happenstance.
Would it be a problem if I said no? It sounds rather tempting, I must admit, to say no to you.
Goku squirms at it. Freezer chuckles. It would be a problem.
Then I refuse.
Listen, you! Your father told us that you have to come with us! So stop being a nuisance before I'll...
What will you do, monkey? I'm already dead. Besides, I'm not my father's property.
Goku turns around, seemingly giving up already.
Well, we tried. Let's go, Nappa.
But Kakarot!
Mission failed. We'll get him next time.
Goku is smiling as he gives Nappa a sly wink, and both of them walk away. This was part of the plan that was about to bear Freezer fruit.
Wait, monkeys! I was only joking.
Freezer runs after the two Saiyans and complies. Nappa is amazed at Goku's intuition in this moment.
It's scary how well you know him. After like, what, 2 fights?
Think about how well I know you after all our training.
The big guy nods in understanding, but he wasn't actually sure if that was a good thing or not, whether he should be worried or flattered. But needless to say, Freezer has ultimately agreed on the terms, and the two Saiyans were content with how the meeting went. They knew, however, that the exhibition match was waiting for them before the tournament began. As in the original, they were meant to face against the Trio de Danger in the Zeno exhibition match, with Toppo watching them closely. The representation of Team Universe 7 for this little practice duel for the Omni King was Goku, Nappa and Gohan, with Kappei, Goten and Videl being the audience. Curious to see how the tournament would be emulated on a much smaller scale. The first fight to occur would be between Basil and Nappa. Basil is trying to use his impressive legwork against Nappa, but quickly discovers that the elderly Saiyan is just too resilient for his hits. Whatever he tried to do, wherever he would strike, Nappa could counter him every single time, and seemed to enjoy the fox's frustration. Basil has to power up to get anywhere with this guy, and only then does he seemingly start to do some damage to his opponent, but Nappa just simply grabs him by the ankle and gives him some good old Hulk smashing. After which he finishes up with a volcano explosion. It all becomes perfectly clear very soon that it proves to be more than enough to beat the legendary kicker of Universe 9. Nappa feels very satisfied with his lot. This had been the first proper altercation in his new fused guise, and it proved to be the best option for him going forward. He felt fantastic. When we have the next battle, Gohan fighting Lavender, it's slightly different. This version of Gohan never learnt the ultimate form like the original Gohan did, but in a way, since he never used it in the original story, it doesn't really matter too much because this boy is much more potent with the Super Saiyan Rage power instead. It gets him going much more so in a way. He is stronger than the original. Having said that though, he still gets blinded by Lavender's spittle and has to focus on sensing energy solely in order to find his enemy, but ends up being fairly successful with the fight. He was declared as still standing whilst Lavender got knocked out. So, Nappa can say with pride that Universe 7 won. They can go home early. Not so. Even with Universe 7 winning 2 matches and mathematically victorious, the Zenos still wanted to see Goku fight Bergamo, which plays out more or less as it did in the original, which means that now here, it's a complete whitewash of Universe 7. After that victory is handed to them, Toppo is now wanting to get a piece of Goku, which ends in a draw, and our protagonist learns of Jiren's existence, which gets him even more pumped for the upcoming contest. After this exhibition is done, all that remains to do is to assemble the team and prepare them to work with Cold and Freezer. Vegeta is the hardest one to convince most obviously, as he sees it as the most moronic idea you two idiots have ever come up with. But he is still determined to train more, and is able to convince Whis to help him in improving one-on-one. Vegeta has to cook something obviously delicious for Whis first, but as we know, the prince is actually pretty good at culinary delights, much more so than you might think. To do so, Whis uses a portable time chamber, just like the one Mirrors uses in the manga, and he trains as hard and as quickly as possible. Goten is also eager to go, and while Chi-Chi is pretty conflicted on letting him go, Kappei and Nappa are able both together to convince Chi-Chi that her son is a fighter, and that if he won't go, there won't be any world left to save perhaps, and also Goten wants to fight alongside his father and uncle. Would Chi-Chi want to deny her son that opportunity? It's clearly much more of a divisive option though. 17 is willing to support his good buddy Nappa, and 18 wants to defend her family. Finally, Kami has all the drive to show everyone what kind of a guardian he really is. So after days of training, Goku and Nappa are finally ready to pick up Cold and Freezer. The mercs from Universe 9 are trying their best to thwart their efforts, but at the end of the day, they get quickly dispatched by the Frost Demons.
You know, Lord Sidra,
Says Cold.
as we businessmen say, good customers are as rare as Kachin. Treasure them. And Lord Beerus has been a very good customer of mine. So I have to refuse your offer.
And when the ball of destruction energy envelops him, both Cold and Freezer transform into their golden forms, and simply deflect it back into the assassin. Nappa and Goku are worried about this. It's clear that these two have improved their golden forms since the last time. They have to keep an eye on them.
You're surprised, Son Goku? Well, I have another tool that I really like. Don't tell your customers more than they need to know.
And that's where we're going to be leaving things for right now. So what do you guys think? Do you think father and son will play ball here? Is Nappa going to be able to hold his own like he did with Basil? Leave a comment below and let's get this discussion going. And I shall see you in the next video. Catch you later!